Representative Evans is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I rise in opposition to House Resolution 1114. You know, we all heard about this when we first got here, and I remember I was in the elevator with a bunch of interns, and it was the first time I had heard about this proposal. And I said, yeah, you know, because we really have been spoiling the kids, you know, with all the schools and the buses and the food and the roads and the trash pickup. I mean, somebody's really got to rein it in because they're not understanding. They're spoiled. Because I thought it was a cheap political joke. Because sure, do I want to pay property taxes? No. Do you want to pay property taxes? No. Do we want our property taxes to go up? No. But do we want our kids to be educated? Yes. Do we want sewer systems to work and trash to be picked up? And do we want clean air? I mean, all these things that we enjoy? Yes, of course. Of course we want those things. But here we are. And not only are we doing this, but we're going to do it in the Constitution. It's permanent. It's going to affect this state for generations. And we can reduce tax burdens. We can reduce property tax burdens even, but we can do it responsibly. And you know how I know we can do that? Because we've done it. We almost unanimously voted on a property tax relief refund for our citizens not too long ago. So don't let it be said that Democrats don't support property tax relief. We absolutely do, and we have this session and many sessions before. And you know how we have done it time and time again as Democrats? By playing either with our own pot of revenue that this government is responsible for distributing. When the Democratic governor, Roy Barnes, eliminated the state property tax, if you want to reduce property taxes, deal with the ones that you levy, the ones that you appropriate, so that when it comes time to make the hard choices, you are making them, and you're not just taking an easy, cheap thrill, cheap shot, cutting someone else's revenue and telling them to deal with it. That's responsible. That's what Democrats did. You know the other way Democrats did responsible property tax reduction policies over the years? By working hand in hand with their local governments. Senior exemptions, low-income exemptions. This can be done in a responsible way by working hand in hand with the government and not lobbing bombs over and saying, you figure it out. And here's the thing. If you look at House Bill 1116, which I guess we'll get to at some point, this is what we're saying. We're going to reduce all these property taxes, local governments, but here's what you can do. You can line up your SPLOST, your eSPLOST, your LOST, your HOST, your FLOST, your SL HOST, your SL HOST, your L HOST, your M HOST. It's just a tax by another name, but it will be them levying it. We get to be the heroes. We ended property taxes. And then those big bad local government folks gave you OST after 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 OST, because that's what's going to happen. Because it costs money to buy stuff like schools and buses and trash pickup and sewer cleanup. You know, I think one of the things that makes me sad about today is we passed this bill out on our desks. The people that this is going to hurt the most is the future of the state. And we had our pages, our students, our future, pass this out. Pass out the ticket to cutting off their local government's ability to invest in them. How dare we? The Constitution, y'all. You know how hard it is. We got to pass it by 2/3. They got to pass it by 2/3. The governor's got to sign it. Everybody's going to vote on it. You can't undo that. That's why states don't do this. And the few that have, I think they wish they could take it back. Ask California. The majority party spends a lot of time talking about how we don't want to be like California. We are about to be exactly like California. Y'all heard of Prop 13? California passed that constitutional amendment, you cannot raise the property tax more than 1% of assessed value in any year. That is in the Constitution. It's been there since 1978. They can't change it. It's a big problem. Remember they went bankrupt once? Remember how they had the rolling blackouts and we all laughed at them? What comes around goes around. Cap it at 1%. Can't increase assessed value by more than 2%. That's California. Who else tried to do this in their constitution? Oregon, 1990, capped their property taxes that local governments could charge at $5 per $1,000. What happened? The state had to backfill the school budget. It costs money to buy stuff. If we are so concerned about tax policy, why don't we mess with our own pot? At least the people across the hall had the guts to mess with our pot that we distribute so that when things go south, we're the ones that are going to have to deal with it. What we are doing is so irresponsible. We're just throwing it on someone else. And this has been said, but we did this. I can't even keep up with how many drafts there's been. The leader said that. I'm with you, leader. I have no idea what draft we're on. There was a draft that came out last night, and then there was a draft that came out just not even an hour ago. We're going to mess with the most stable revenue source that our local governments have, that our kids have, that our schools, that our babies have. And we're going to do it in less than an hour while we go at ease to pass around this. Think about the study committees that you've sat on over the years, ladies and gentlemen. I tried to go back and look, and I won't name them all because I don't need to. I can see it, you know. Oh, we need to study that. That could have some implications. I really think we need to study that. This last summer, we studied what would happen if we changed the ability of people to charge the merchant fees on the credit cards, because heaven forbid we do that too quickly. We needed to study that. We're talking about eliminating a stable source of revenue for our schools, and we're going to do it this quickly. No study committee. No time to really go back and talk to our local governments about the most recent draft that we got not even an hour ago. That's not responsible. It's not serious. And I'm really disappointed in us. I was really proud of us all across the aisle when it seemed we weren't really interested in picking up the elimination of the income tax bill that was passed across the hall, because that's not super responsible. It's also not super constitutional since it started over there. And that means something. The process means something. But we've just erased whatever responsibility, whatever seriousness I thought we had. And for what? A cheap thrill, a cheap shot, passing the buck to someone else. And it's even more disappointing because we should want more of our Georgians to own homes. We should want home ownership to be more of a reality. We should want a lower tax burden, and we should want to make it more affordable for more Georgians. And we have the ability to do all those things by working with local governments, by going slower, running some pilots perhaps, and even more so, and this is where I'm going to end. We spent so much time over the last 2 years in a very bipartisan manner talking about the very real problem, the real reason that homeownership is so dang hard right now, corporate ownership of residential property. And we came into this session, I thought, so hopeful to do something about that. You want to do something about homeownership? You want to do something about affordability? Deal with the rampant corporate ownership of housing. And we had the ability to deal with that and also give some tax relief. We could have changed the tax structure with whether the way you're taxed as a residential owner versus a corporate owner at the state level. We could have done that responsibly. Instead, we just lob a bomb. And we're better than that. I really would like to think we were better than that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.